What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today, I want to just do an overall analysis on the NASDAQ and S&P 500 futures. We haven't had a video like this on the channel for a few weeks now, and I think it's a good time to do an update. There's some very key levels that we need to be watching to get an idea of where the market is going to move next. And over the last 10 trading days, we've seen a very sideways, choppy NASDAQ market, something I want to point out, make sure you're aware of, because as of right now, I think there's a period on the market that if you are an intraday trader, a short-term detailed technical analysis trader, this is a little bit of a time to be patient, to sort of stay risk adverse. I think there's going to be better opportunities once we break out of some key levels that I'm going to talk to you about today. So press that like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's just go ahead and do a nice recap on the overall futures markets and where they are currently sitting right now. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Press the like button, subscribe. Let's jump into the charts. So guys, I want to start this video off here on the 4-hour chart on the NASDAQ futures and sort of give you a longer term look, and then we'll break it down into some shorter term periods. So here's the 4-hour chart, and this is dating back since May, right? Since May, since we got that big push from the lows on the market, this is sort of what we've been doing since May. It's been a pretty long period of really no growth on the overall NASDAQ. And just over the last 10 days, a very, very detailed channel here on the NASDAQ futures. So I have really two major levels that I believe the market will trade within for, we'll see how long, but until we break these two levels that are on my chart here, I think it's going to be a difficult trade here on the NASDAQ, right? The intraday trade is going to be difficult. It's going to be precise. You're going to have a lot of detail, a lot of precision in your entries and exits. It's not going to be the easiest trade within these two levels on the NASDAQ futures. And we have seen them be respected very, very well over the last 10 trading days. So the first level that has my eye that I continue to watch and I continue to be cautious shorting into is the 14,600 level on the NASDAQ futures. If we take this back to May and June, we can see this was a previous rejection point that we broke out above, right? A very key breakout on the NASDAQ futures. We had a nice period of upside. After finding some resistance up at these highs, we came back down to this level back in around August, right? And so in August, we came right back down to that 14.6 and we held it and had a small period of upside. Now, again, you guys can see over the last 10 to 15 trading days, we have found a little bit of a double bottom here around that 14,600 level. So it's very clear as of right now that the NASDAQ futures want to try to hold this 14,600 level, and being short into this level is really not the best risk to reward, in my opinion. It has proven to us back in August, back there in May, and now over the last few days that it wants to continue to try to hold this level. So as of right now on the market, this is a very key demand level that you need to be paying attention to, and you have to be cautious if you're an intraday trader holding shorts into that level. Now, moving forward, if we are to break that level, right, if we are to break this level, turn it into a rejection, then I would definitely anticipate more downside, and that is what I'm potentially waiting for to get a better trade here on the market, right? Because what we can see here over the last 10 to 15 days, we do continue to hold 14.6, right? We know that demand is there. However, we cannot get above this 15,060 area. And we can see that this 15,060 supply area has dated back previously as well, right? So we can see previous support here, previous support in this area, and previous support in this area. Now, after we broke below this area, we had a few rejections here. We did hold it here again, and we slipped under, which caused that aggressive downside. We got back above. We had a little bit of choppiness in this area, but ultimately got back above that level at 15,060. Now, after falling back below it, similar to like what we did here, right? This time we were able to break above, and that caused that upside. Now, this time around, we are having a lot of difficulty getting back above that 15,060 area. So as of right now, right, we can clearly see in this period, which I'm about to zoom in on, I'm going to zoom in on the period that we're currently trading in on the 4-hour chart, right? This period on the market dates back, right? Let's get a little timestamp here. We can go to our time level. Let's just put a little red line here, and let's put a red line at today. In this period on the market, right, this is back between about September 21st to today, which is October 5th, we have done nothing on the NASDAQ besides trade between this 15,060 and 14,600. Now, there are ways to trade this sideways action, which you can trade spreads, condors, right? Selling options is really the best opportunity during this time in the market, right? And this is going to happen with any market. We have to understand that there are certain periods where we have sideways consolidation, we have big trends. As of right now, buying options is a little bit more difficult because of that overall sideways action, which we know decays option premiums. We don't get those big volatile moves. So it can be a little bit difficult to be profitable in this period on the NASDAQ futures. Something that I wanted to point out and make sure that you're aware of. For most traders, what I would recommend is to possibly stay away from this type of action, or at least scale down, take your foot off the gas, understand that this is a period to be a little bit more risk adverse. There is nothing wrong with that, right? As a trader, we need to understand market conditions. And as of right now, the market conditions are not ideal. That doesn't mean it's always going to be this way, but we have to compensate for these periods and understand what's going on in the market, right? We can't be going out here taking huge trades looking for large trends when the market has shown us that that is not what it wants to do. If the NASDAQ is like this, then we're likely going to see pretty limited growth on some of our favorite tech stocks, right? Tesla, Nvidia, Apple. They're going to be choppier and more difficult to trade if the overall market is trading in this sense, right? So something to be paying attention to. Now, I am waiting to take some larger trades, my normal aggressive trades. I am waiting to get a break and hold above these levels, right? Because I know that after we break out of this consolidation, which we will, right? It will happen. Maybe it's next week on CPI and PPI. Maybe that's what we need to wait for, some type of a catalyst on the market. I know that once we break either over the 15,060 or if we break under the 14.6, there will be opportunities, right? And those are the opportunities that we want to strike on. We don't care, right? There's not a single day here for the last 2 weeks where I look back and I say, damn, did I miss a really good move, right? That is not happening right now. So there should be no feelings of FOMO as the market trades sideways, right? Where I want to strike is when we get that break of this NASDAQ channel. So I just wanted to point this out today, right? Give you guys a good idea of what the market's doing, making sure you're understanding where we are currently trading. This is the 4-hour chart, right? This is a pretty large time frame. And we can see, even on this 4-hour chart, how clear this sideways channel is and how we need to protect ourselves as we trade within this channel. Now, what we just talked about was the NASDAQ futures, and that is the overall tech market, right? But the ES, the S&P 500, is a little bit of a different story here, and something that you want to be paying attention to, the overall weakness here on the S&P 500. Now, there's a reason why the S&P 500 looks different than the NASDAQ, and that stems back to what is in the S&P 500 futures versus what is in the NASDAQ futures. And on the S&P, right, we have other sectors like, let's take, for example, the energy sector, the XLE. Now, the XLE over the last few weeks has been having a pretty rough time moving lower. The XLP, consumer staples, this has been dropping pretty aggressively, and we continue to see that downside. The XLF has been pretty weak, a little bit of a green day today, which is sort of interesting, but XLF financials is moving lower as well. Now, the XLK, which is technology, we can see XLK has been relatively sideways and is holding up this market, so to say. Especially, you can see that with the NASDAQ futures, right? So XLK technology has been relatively strong, and this is why you see that NASDAQ future strength. But when we take it all together, which is the ES, you combined all those sectors, that XLE weakness, that XLF weakness, that XLP weakness is causing some underperformance here on the S&P 500. So we can see, right? We broke under this 43.75 level on the ES. This was that previous double bottom low here on the market. And after we broke that level, we have seen some of that underperformance on the S&P 500. Now, if I throw this onto the daily chart, we can see where the real true demand comes in next on the S&P 500 futures. I think the real demand on the ES really steps in around this 4,200, right? We can see 4,200 previous highs, previous double top highs. And as we approach that level, right, the risk to reward to the downside becomes less and less appealing. And it's something I am watching for maybe a little bit of a potential short-term relief near that 4,200 level, something I do have in my mind and I continue to watch here, especially if we get that NASDAQ future breakout, right? So if we get that NASDAQ futures to break over that 15,060, that level we just talked about, my assumption is that it will drag this ES futures up with it, sort of holding this 4,200 level. Now, maybe we still need to see some downside on this ES towards 4,200, something I will be watching. Now, again, the ES is sort of in a channel and something, once again, like I said earlier, I'm being a little bit more risk adverse until I see this channel break. So that NASDAQ future channel that we talked about, that 15,060 to 14,006, it's a channel that we need to be a little bit more risk adverse in. Be cautious on those short-term options trades. On the ES, to me, it's between this 4,200 and this 4,370 area. So if we zoom in here on the 1 hour chart, I'm going to get a little bit more time here so we can look at where that 4,370 comes in, right? You guys can see right here on the hourly chart, until this ES gives me something clear above this 4,370 or gives me something clear under this 4,200, I think it's going to be a pretty difficult, pretty choppy trade within this channel. And something that I just wanted to make a fair warning, right? Make sure that everyone that watches my channel is aware of. It could be a little bit of a difficult trade as we approach that 4,200 demand and we are still trading below that 4,370 supply. Now, if we really want to break this down short term, I'm going to break this down to the 15-minute chart. I think there is something to get a little bit insight on the short-term watch, and that is this 4,300 level on the S&P 500 futures. So right here, guys, you can see this very important 4,300 level. I think that is going to be the level that really decides in the extreme short term where this ES moves next. If we continue to see these rejections step up at 4,300, then I'm going to anticipate that this market stays weak and that we could continue to slide lower. Now, if we get this 4,300 break, right, if we're able to get back above this 4,300 in the following days, then I think you could see a little bit of a momentum shift, and maybe that's what gives you that spark on the market and also helps you get above that 15,060 on the NASDAQ. So I'm not saying what's going to happen here, right? That is not my job here on YouTube, or any trader should not be trying to guess what happens. But we need to be prepared, right? We need to understand if we see this, this is what I expect. And so for me, if I see the ES get above 4,300, hold above that level, I'm going to expect that we see upside, right? If I see the ES continue to reject 4,300, I'm going to expect that I could try to play downside and continue to play rejections off that level. So I'm making sure I understand the key levels on the overall market, and if I see reactions at those levels, I know how to execute game planning for it, being prepared for that next move. So 4,300 on the ES in the extreme short term, I think is very important and something you should continue to watch here over the next few trading days. Now, I will say before I end this video, I think the NASDAQ futures is 100% the thing to be watching here. I think this has a lot of weight on the market. As we know, the large cap tech stocks, I'm definitely going to be monitoring when the NASDAQ breaks this channel. Whichever side it does break, I'm going to look for that trade, right? And if we get a move over 15,060, I'm definitely going to be looking out for some long options trades, looking for that move over 15,060, and same thing to the flip side. If we get a break under that 14.6, I'm definitely going to look to get aggressive to the downside. Until then, I'm going to lower my position size, understand the market's pretty choppy, be risk adverse. This is not the period in the market that we're blowing up accounts, we're taking huge size, right? This is not the period to be doing that. The market has shown you that it's staying sideways. Trust that sideways action. Understand the period that you're trading in and alter your trading to the market, right? Maybe you want to be aggressive. You want that big hit. You want that huge upside trade. That's in your head. The market's not saying that that's what's going to happen. So make sure you alter your trading to the market conditions that you're currently in. All right, guys, so I hope that this update here on the NASDAQ and ES gives you a good idea of where we're currently trading, some major levels to be watching. If it did, press that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want updates on these futures every single morning, we do that in our pre-market live stream. Make sure to check that out every single morning here on YouTube starting at 8 a.m. Press that like button, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.